So cumulative frequency. What does that mean? Let me write that here. Cumulative frequency. I sound out all my words because I learned that in first grade. That's when we learned to read, I think. It's good for you, you know. Hooked on phonics. It worked for me sometimes. The cumulative frequency. So what we just did is we have our frequency here, just the number of students per interval, and we found the estimated mean. So what this number represents here is 158.8. That's the average height of my students for those two classes. So now we're doing the cumulative frequency. We want to know our boundaries. We want to know between, for example, let's say 148 to 160 centimeters, how many students are in that group of data, in that boundary. To do that, we need a cumulative frequency. And again, when I go back here, so cumulative frequency, it means we are taking the sum of the frequencies below a certain value. I'll write that here. Sum of the frequencies below a certain value. And you'll see that as we start to add these things, you'll see it. We got a pretty color. We got fancy. You know I'm a fancy person. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So in this column, we're going to do cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency. All right. So just like we did last time, we have 148 between 148 and 151 centimeters. We had 3 students. Boom. So here I'm starting with 3 students because that's all I have between that interval, 3 students. Now, cumulative frequency says sum of the frequencies below a certain value. So what it's saying here is from 151 to 148, we have 3 students, which means that from 151, we have 3 students. And you'll see what this means in a second. 151 represents the height. So the maximum height for 3 students is 151. That's why we have 151, 3. If we're doing this by hand, we'd say these are our plotted points. This would be plotted on a graph. I'll put that here, plotted points. Points. I'm already getting ahead of myself, but if I'm saying plotted points, you're probably thinking, oh, where is this going? Plotted points. All right. So now cumulative frequency, I add it up as I go. The sum of the frequencies below a certain value. So I have 3 here between 148 and 151. Between 151 and 154, I have 8. So then now what is the total number of students I have between 148 and 154? Oh, equals. I'm going to add those together. So I have 3 plus another 8 more. So what that's saying is, okay, with a maximum height of 154 centimeters, I'm going to have 11 students. So 11 students are between 148 and 154. So next, do it one more time. So between, in these two, I have 11 students. Now how many do I have in these 3 intervals? Well, I'm going to do, okay, equals, I have this plus 7. So now it's saying in these 3 intervals, I have 18 students. So 18 students are between 148 and 157 centimeters tall. So it's saying from 157 centimeters, I need to have 18 students. And again, remember it says totals here? Well, let's get the total here just for fun. It's going to come in handy. So take the sum of all the frequencies here. It should be 36 again. So you'll see the cumulative frequency is supposed to be the sum. That nice word sum, which means in the end, I need to end up with the same number here as the same number here. Well, remember this is Excel, so they like to do all of our work for us. Well, I'm going to highlight these 2 rows and then pull this little guy down. You see what happened? It filled it in for me. What it did was, 11 plus 7, 18 plus 4. Yeah. And then 28 plus 6, or sorry, 22 plus 6 gives me 28. 28 plus 2 gives me 30. So it's adding my frequencies as I go down. So let's say from 169 to 148, I should have 31 students. That represent. And again, if we're doing this by hand, we would actually plot this on a graph. But since this is Excel or Google Sheets, we're going to let Google do it for us. So what we're going to do is our height is going to be our X value. As you can see, I've been plotting the points. X is the height. Y is our number of students. So I'm going to click height, hold down Shift, click the last interval here. Now I'm going to hold Control, or some people say Control or Control, click Cumulative Frequency, and I'm still holding Control. So while I'm holding Control, I'm going to hold Shift. And then now you see that I'm going to click that last column 36 or last row 36. Now I have these 2 columns highlighted right here and right here. Then I'm going to go up to this little picture here where it says Insert Chart. So it's right here somewhere. I'm going to click Insert Chart, and it's going to make this graph for me. But look at that. I don't want a bar graph. I want a nice cumulative frequency graph. It looks like a little line. So I'm going to click Chart Type. And see, since I've already done it here, it's estimate, or it's guessing what I want. So you won't see this. What you want to do is scroll down until you see line. So this will be your cumulative frequency graph. Move that a little bit. There we go. It is fancy because I'm a fancy guy. So I like things fancy. And so because we did have these little points here, well, we want to see where they are on our graph. So right now it's just a line. But if I go over to the line, you see, I'll start to see little points here. I'll show you that in a second. I want these points to show up. So I click on the points. And I scroll down here until I see circle. Ooh, a point is a circle, right? Click it. And now I've got my points there. You see? So now all of these points you see on my line, they're represented by the points that would be here. So then this would be, what would this be, 160? Because that's the top range of the interval, 160. And then my cumulative frequency would be 22, like that. So all those points are represented here. Really nice, really fancy, I know. All right, Alex, peace, man. So now you're probably thinking, okay, Mr. Russell, it's fancy and all, but what are we going to do with this? Well, I'll show you in a second. So before I switch over to that, one more time, somebody wanted me to see how you highlight. Okay, so I want the heights and I want the frequencies. So I click height, I hold down Shift, then I click my last, I'll go over there, I'll do the whole thing again. So I click height, hold down Shift, go down to the last row there where I have my heights. Then I hold down Control. I click Cumulative Frequency. While I'm holding Control, I'll hold down Shift. So I'm holding Shift and Control at the same time. Then I click 36. Now I have both of these rows highlighted. So if I want a graph, so you see mine, I used to have a little button here that showed a graph. Well, I don't anymore. Now I have to click More. There it is, Insert Chart. So I'll click Insert Chart, and voila, there it is. But if you don't have this graph here, you'll have to go to Chart Type. So I'm in Setup, Chart Type, and just scroll down to where it says Line. If I want to show my points, I pick a point on my graph. Then I go to Shape, click on Circle, And there it is. I can even change the color if you want. So let's do uh morado. There you go. There you go. Ta-da! It's not fancy. Miss Russum's fancy.